I want to thank you guys for coming last week. Very exciting, really lovely to have the little mini reunion, get a chance to see Finn and everybody else. Now we can do more of a deep dive.
It was so much fun to see everybody, and
Yeah,
it's amazing that they're all
they really do. I'm very pleased, obviously, as a breeder and of course as a dog lover just in general. So let's go back. I sent you the questions so you could have a chance to think about it and kind of rewind to really 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere in this time frame, we were starting to get to know each other. And what are some of your thoughts, your perspective on your experience that you went through and what you thought about with the puppy matching process? And then we can kind of move forward from there. So tell me about that a little bit.
I think what came across really clearly to me was your commitment and dedication to the puppies. And it was more than a business, it was your passion. And that impressed me because I thought these are people that really care about what they're doing and really want to do what's best for everybody. And it gave me a really sense of ease because I thought, it didn't matter what puppy we got because you knew them and you spent the time to get to know us, and it made it just kind of took all the worry away from me because you're the experts, and it was a good feeling that number one, you cared a lot,
Okay.
and number two, that you took the time to get to know us and the puppies and before you made that decision. And I like that we didn't go pick one out. I like that. That's how I felt.
Okay. Rich, anything from your perspective?
Yeah, well, in selecting our previous dogs, we had a Basset Hound to begin with, and then we had two Goldens prior to Finn. And in those three experiences, the way it worked is that we went to this individual or their home or wherever, and we saw a bunch of puppies, and we said, okay, we'd like to have a puppy. The person basically said, come back in 9 weeks and we'll give you a puppy. And then that's the way it worked. And what I found different this time was that you somehow matched up the characteristics of our letters, looking at us as people and our personalities and what we wanted in a pet. And you knew the personalities of the animals, and somehow you meshed the personalities of the individuals, us in the letters, to the personalities of the animals, and said, well, listen, I think this dog really suits you better than this dog, and this is the reason why. And you gave us an explanation as to what your reasoning was in that time frame. And that was really unique and different. In the long term, looking back 11 and a half years, I think, it really was the right way to go. Yeah.
Our previous Golden was from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know them real well. Yep.
And the Golden we had before that, my sister lives in Delaware, and she breeds standard poodle. So she's very active in the community, and she knew a breeder of Goldens, and she matched us with this particular individual that she knew through her contacts there. And tragically, this Golden died at the age of 2 of brain cancer. We took him to Dr. J. They didn't know what it was. We had really good people felt like working with us when we got our puppies. So I think to say to you, you were far and above these really good breeders, it says something.
I appreciate that. I mean, this is going to be about Finn.
No, I know, but I want you, but Finn is partly who Finn is because of you guys.
So what's in retrospect for us, what Jenny and I did kind of naturally was blend our backgrounds and apply it, being a retired elementary school teacher and in the consulting work that I did for years just seemed to make sense. And I mean, I had previous experience because I had bred a couple litters prior to that, spread out over a long period of time. And it just has come together, that the Karma litter was the first litter that she and I bred together and did it. And so it's really, really cool. We've talked a lot about every year that goes by, they're 10 years old, they're 11 years old, they're 11 and a half years old. It's just so lovely. But the stories are what stands out even more. And I know you've shared tidbits of things. One, we wanted to have relationships with people that we would have a long-term relation that would span the entire age of the dog. And then two, however much we could be apprised or say involved, but I don't mean it as a controlling way, in the dog's life. Like we knew what was going on with Finn, for example, and we know what is going on with a lot of the dogs, probably 85 to 90% of them, where we know at least that, and some we're real close to and others, we're not, and that's fine. So when you think specifically about the match, because then I want to tie that into his potential and what you did, thinking about an audience that's going to listen to this and learn from it. Not that they're going to be our puppy people, because we're only going to breed a small number of dogs over our lifetimes. So there's going to be a lot more people who don't get dogs from us, but that could learn from this, or just get some more information, because so many people are seeking out, how do we pick a breeder and how do we pick out a puppy if we're in that kind of situation, and etc. So that being said, the stories are what you guys have done, meaning you two with Finn, but the Valadacases with Moose and Sandy with Rosie. That is the most important to us. Yes, health. We want them to be taken care of in a healthy way, but our people are doing that. So tell me a little bit about going through that process and then how you got matched to Finn. Was it strange? Was there anything like, what the heck are these people doing? What are we doing here? Anything, any of your kind of insights that you could share from your perspective way back when?
Well, I think as Rich has said, it was a different experience. We'd had 3 other experiences that were very different. It was very different to be invited into a litter of adorable puppies, to see them, to get to know them, to interact with them, was nothing we'd ever been able to really do before. So I think that experience was unique, and it really helped us see Finn as part of the whole group, see the puppies interact. We were watching them and trying to learn their personalities in that short amount of time. And we've never had that opportunity. So I think that was really fun. And I think I was just curious, how is this going to happen? What would we like in a puppy? They all look great. They all look cute. So what do we want? What characteristics? We're not 30 years old. And I think that was part of this process that we didn't have before, because I feel like we had the opportunity to give you guys some feedback, like, well, what are you looking for? And nobody had ever asked us that before. And I think we had to kind of think about it. What does our household dynamics look like? We knew we had a lot of little kids in the house. We had some time. Both of us weren't working full time. I think that started a conversation with us and started us thinking right from the get-go, and having that opportunity to even say, well, what is it that we really, let's prioritize? What are the characteristics? Now we're really fine tuning it.
Yeah.
Really a good thing for us to do, to stop and think about it a little bit, instead of just say, okay, we want a puppy. Yeah, but what do you want in a puppy? What are you looking at? What do you expect? And those are the questions I think we had a chance to discuss as part of that process. And I think that was really a good thing.
That's a really good point. I know why we ask the questions, but from your experience of it, to have the time to think about it and the two of you talk about it. Rich, what were you going to say?
I'm thinking back to when we got Ben, who was our second Golden. I remember specifically sitting with him on like a grassy bank. The dog was brought out and basically said, well, this is your puppy. And that's how we were introduced.
Okay.
And it worked out. It was fine. It was just like, well, here's your dog. We never saw all the other puppies. We never saw any of the other puppies, just this one dog. So when we came to you and, we saw the puppies, and they were all adorable and they were all cute, but I couldn't make, and Barb couldn't make any decision as to, they were all equally cute. So how do you pick one? So now we have to rely upon the expertise of the breeder, who knows the personalities of the dogs and who is feeling out the prospective owners of these dogs and really analyzing and studying these insightful questions that you were asking us and coming up with your analysis of what dog would be best for what owner. I remember we came up a couple times.
Yes.
3 or 4 times, I think, before we ever had taken possession of Finn. Whereas with the other animals, we basically saw them once we came back and basically were told, well, here's your pet. We didn't know anything about the dog. We held it maybe once for 10 minutes, 15 minutes if we were lucky, but that was it. We never discussed or had conversations with the breeders. I remember sitting down with you and Jenny in your living room, talking about the animals, talking about the personalities. And, I specifically remember asking questions about Moose. And the reason I was asking questions about Moose is because I was hung up on this name. If this dog is Moose, he must be really a big dog that I want. And, looking back on it, it was silly because, Finn has turned out to be a great dog. And I'm sure Moose is a great dog as well. But my point is that you had the insight of studying the situation, studying us, studying the animals, matching up all the players and piecing them together. And that normally, I don't think probably happens a lot.
I've had other dogs my whole life and been through the same experience that you have. So, and Jenny, the same. You go, you pick your dog out, and that's very typical. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very common. There are other breeders who will make decisions and selections for the families, but very, very typical. And I think one of the things, just as you were talking, it made me think about my first Golden versus my second Golden. And then I had a different breed that I got a first one and a second one. And wow, they were different. If I would have known, I would have been better prepared to handle my second Golden, which she was like a wild child. And my first one was like a perfect angel. And it all worked out and learned a lot. But I think that had an impact on me, like, hey, there are differences and we can learn about those differences in the 8 weeks that we have those puppies. They let us know a lot about themselves once you're paying attention, which you experienced. Any moments that you remember when we made phone calls? We still do it the same way. We tell people we're going to call them, a couple days before 8 weeks and let them know who they're matched to. And then we give them some additional information. Any memories of that?
Yeah. We were scheduled to be away that week, and I was kind of lamenting the timing was off. I didn't want to be away. I wanted to be right here, close when we got the call. We were in St. John, and I remember vividly getting the call, and we were down there with the whole family, and it was just like, I don't want to say it's like having a baby, but it was that kind of excitement. You got to share with everybody at that time. It was really special. And I vividly remember the moment we got the phone call.
I remember you guys being away, but I didn't remember that part of the phone call that that you were down there.
Reception wasn't great, and I think there was a problem with that as I was talking.
Even more suspenseful, right? So you get Finn, and now, tell me a little bit about your experience in how you nurtured him, and maybe weave in a little bit of what did you do differently with him, if you did anything, compared to other dogs that you had in raising him, since we did make a big deal about that over time. How did that lead into you discovering his proclivity to be really great at therapy dog? And then, of course, he went into a very special niche there. So can you give me a little bit of insight into some of those things?
Yeah, I think part because of your care and concern and the time you took, I approached it a little bit differently than I did with the previous dogs. Part of it was timing, had more time. I was home. I think I made a slightly different commitment to Finn because of time, because of circumstance, than I did maybe, to be honest, than our other puppies. This was something I really felt I wanted to do, was to devote the time and effort and energy. into doing the best thing possible for this puppy. A part of that was a carryover from what I had experienced with you guys. He immediately presented as just a bundle of energy that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of energy to harness. There was a lot of snow. There was a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
that was
February.
until like April or May, you know.
It was just fun. I just remember it being fun. The challenge of having a puppy and dealing with the elements and taking him out. And that was not a problem. He's been so easy to train and housebreak. He has been the least barky dog we've ever had. So there were so many components of his personality that were so easy, and that it really gave me a sense of, wow, this is really a dog that I'm going to be able to work with. I've got the raw material here that I think I can really do something with this dog, and I have the time. So I feel like it all came together, and I made that commitment. You know, I really want to work. I really want to train this dog, you know, and my sister's very involved with obedience and kind of had her support a little bit, you know, her experience.
I think the aspects of having time and making a commitment, there's some conscious choices. I think about the people that I talk to now. So many people have a work from home component, if there's a couple involved, that somebody can be home. It's very different. And that does make a difference with the attention that a puppy can get, as well as the amount of resources available. Puppy sitters, puppy walkers that will come, and when they come and let your dog out, they're going to do some training, even with younger puppies. So even in this short, decade plus, there's been this burgeoning of services meeting the needs of dog owners. You still have to make a choice and know going in, this is something that I need to do, I want to do. And I think the operative word is want. I want to do this. And yes, the timing does make sense. Rich?
Well, like Barb said, with our other two dogs, we were both working full time, and we didn't really have a lot of time to dedicate to good citizen training and all that. But when Barb and I made the decision to get him trained, I will say Barb was great at getting his canine good citizenship, and then his therapy dog international certificate and so on. I remember we would drive to these, and at the end, when he was up for his therapy dog certificate, there were eight dogs that were left, I think, in that final test, maybe six. And out of those 8 or 6, whatever it was, only 2 actually made it to the end, and it was Finn and another dog. So in the beginning, both Barb and I would take Finn to Bryn Mawr Hospital and take him around, and it was fun. And then Barb's schedule was allowing her to do this more often than I was. I had this one experience that I just want to share, and that was that, if you recall, back in the mid-teens, 2000 teens, the Pope was in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And one of the guys that was in Philadelphia brought in a bunch of either cadaver sniffing dogs or bomb sniffing dogs. And he had some kind of a medical incident and ended up in Bryn Mawr Hospital. And that day I was taking Finn around, and I just happened to walk into this guy's room. And he was looking at the dog, and he talked to Finn, and Finn came over and did all of his normal, really good stuff. And at the end, he said, we started talking about Finn as a therapy dog. And he said, if you ever need to give this dog away, I'd be happy to take it. I'm from Colorado. I'd like to make him a bomb sniffing dog. And I was thinking to myself, a bomb sniffing dog? If Nancy and Jennifer heard this, they'd have a stroke. They'd kill me for sure. I would need a bomb sniffing dog. But this guy gave me his card and everything. And I don't know if he had appendicitis or whatever his problem was, but he was laid up. So, and then his wife was there. And so he might have had the bomb sniffing dogs, and she might have had like the narcotics sniffing dogs or whatever it was. But anyway, they were both dog people, dog trainers. And
they were so impressed with Finn.
They were.
And he was young. He was probably less than 3. When we started, he wasn't certified because it wasn't required. He was 2 years old when we started taking him.
Oh, wow.
He'd been through all the manners and the CGC and when we started.
But he didn't have his TDI at that time.
You saw a lot of people and a lot of dogs training together. One of the aspects, and I had shared this over the weekend, and I know we shared this with you at the time of placing Finn, how laid back temperamentally he was, and that he would be potentially a good therapy dog. And you didn't come to us saying, this is a goal. We want to have a therapy dog. Today, we've got people that do that. And they'll say, would they know about it? And again, that's another dog experience, that an opportunity that has really grown over these past 10 years. So anyway, what got you in that channel to say, let's do some therapy dog work? And then the big story that I remember with him is the end of life experience, and going to those. Connect the dots for me with that, because I think it's a good story for people to know. The way I describe it with prospective families is, over those first 2 years, you're going to be going to lots of different classes. And your job is to, one, train them for the basics, but also discover along with that dog what their talents are, if you will. What are they good at doing, and following that, and that it's not a direct path. I use Finn as an example. Like, we would have never been able to say to you at 8 weeks, this dog is going to go do this. All we could say is, we can tell you, separate from the puppy energy, because that's going to be there with every dog, but temperamentally he's very laid back. And so that was suitable in lots of ways for the lifestyle you were experiencing at the time, even, with your grandkids, etc. So how did those connections, happen to get you to such a amazing experience? And now I know he's pretty much retired, but tell me a little bit about that. I think that's a great story for people to hear.
I think it just evolved. I didn't set out with the predetermination for him to be a therapy dog, because I didn't know enough about a therapy dog, and I didn't know enough about Finn. But what impressed me with Finn from the get-go was that he was very willing and easy to train. And I thought, wow, I have something to work with here. I have a dog that connects with me. And we started with puppy kindergarten, and then we went through all the manners classes at What a Good Dog. And so I saw Finn in context of the other dogs, Finn with me. And I was so impressed with how he tuned into me, what a people person he was. And so then I thought, wow, I think I said to Richard, I really have something, the raw material here to really do something with this puppy. Finn's motto is, strangers are friends I haven't met yet. That was him. It was fun to train him, and we just started not knowing where it was going to go, and we kept adding on. Oh, we did Manners 1. That was fun. Let's do Manners 2. That was great. Let's do this. Oh, let's go for the CGC. Now I have the CG, and I look around, and, I was looking at agility, and I thought, well, you know what? I like volunteering. I like giving back. So part of me wanted to, number one, share him, because I thought he's an exceptional dog. And the feedback later on down the road that we got from people were more, he is exceptional. But I wanted to share this animal with other people and to help them. That's how the therapy evolved. We took them to a class that prepared you for the test, and specifically, so they went through every single maneuver, and I saw that in that class, not every dog was suitable, and he clearly was. The hardest part of the test for Finn, now he was under 3. He had to sit and keep his butt on the ground. I couldn't have any treats, couldn't say anything, and a stranger had to come up to him, and he had to stay seated. And he's less than 3. Well, I knew if there was one, that was our hump. And it was the first one, and he did. And I thought, we've nailed this easy, because I knew for a young golden, I thought that was asking a lot. To see him in context of these other dogs who were also training to qualify for this, and seeing him in that group was like, wow, he's really exceptional.
Yeah.
There's a study that was done, and basically it looked at when horses, and then they applied it to dogs, got to be adults, what was the impact of nature versus nurture. And what they found was by the time the animal is 2 or an adult, 65% is based on environment. And that included training, raising, health, etc. But only 35% at that time and then beyond is attributable to genetics. And we find that is absolutely true.
Really?
So it's nice to hear people say it's the breeding, etc. But we can see over all these years that when we hand a puppy over, yes, it's what we've done with it up to 8 weeks. After that, it kind of goes out and each family is doing its thing with that dog that makes it theirs. And it's gratifying because it's like, yes, the dogs know us, but he's your dog. And that is a result of how you raise him, the bond that you develop with the dog in not just raising, but training. And people need to take credit for that because he is who he is because of everything you did with him from 8 weeks plus 1 day on. Things that we would never do. And that's what we want. We want people to do. That's what I mean by developing the potential and bringing out whoever he is. And he is your dog. And that is the ultimate for me as a breeder, for Jenny and I as breeders, that the people take them and that's a family member of yours. They're not kind of looking back going, how come I'm not back at home where I was born? We appreciate that. We really do, from a grandparent perspective of the puppies. So how did he get to this very special, unique situation at the hospital?
You know, Nancy, it's interesting because the hospital might have at any given time 2 or 3 therapy dogs. And it became clear to me through feedback I was given through the staff that interacted with him, through the patients that interacted with him, that Finn was the favorite. If there was a community meeting, they asked me to speak with Finn. If there was a class of student nurses, high school students that were in the medical careers program, it was Finn and myself that went in and talked to the girls in that class, that interacted with them, talked about pet therapy. He was selected to be the spokesperson for their program. And I think that speaks to the reputation, I mean, he had in that hospital. I really did not want to stop volunteering because I saw the good he was doing. You know, in the behavioral health wing, they would get down on the floor with him and they were having a hard time. The response they had with Finn, spoken, nonverbal, was amazing. And I really felt he was just a natural. He knew he was working when we got there. And this really surprised me. When he was really young, my neighbor, my next door neighbor, who knew Finn from seeing him running around in the yard and whatnot, and we went in to see her. And she said, I can't believe this is Finn, because his behavior was so different. And I thought, you know, you're right. He knows he's working, that he knew that. And to see that, it was amazing. We had the opportunity to interact with a social worker that does palliative care. And she had Golden, and she and Finn bonded like I've never seen. Like, he would cry, and he wasn't there during COVID. He never forgot her. If I was in the hospital, she said, text me, I want to see him. Our last day there, of course, she was right there. And she said, and I think she recognized, because she had dogs, that he was special. If there were patients on hospice and the families requested, we would bring Finn in and would extend a hand of the patient. The patient would place a hand on Finn, and more than once there was a response in that person that was remarkable. And I think for the family too, they felt that a part of their loved one was still there. And I think it just helped them. And I can't imagine for that person, you know, what it did. We also got phone calls from Lankenau a couple of times. They have therapy dogs, but not a lot. They asked if Finn could come. They had an ICU patient. and they would like Finn to come to the ICU. And we did
Wow.
that several times as above and beyond, because again, the staff, the patients were, were so appreciative. It's just been a very rewarding experience. I think I think Finn got a lot out of it too. For him, just meeting and greeting people, he would come home tired because
it is tiring for them. Yeah.
It's very stimulating for him. We had the opportunity to share him and really spread a lot of meaningful encounters around. Yeah.
I always, when I use him as an example, I say, who knew there was end of life requests for therapy dog? Like, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it just is a testament to following his path and whatever was in front of you. Just, we'll do this, and you went to the hospital, and then things evolved from there. That kind of willingness to go with the evolution of it and where it can take you. And that's part of the joy of that journey, that dogs are going to take you somewhere. We have that. We've got a lot of dogs now, but every one of them has their story, has their impact, has their, what we call lessons. And I don't know if you've had a chance, I'll send you the links. If not, we did 2 sets of lessons we learned from Tracker and lessons we learned from Sky. That's our philosophy. Like, we really believe that every dog is going to teach us some kind of lesson. They come to us for something, and whatever that means, philosophical terms, it is what it is, but that's kind of the way we look at it. If you think about it, is there anything that you think Finn taught you, or a lesson that he brought you along the way here, just being in your life?
He's right by our feet. He's right by, as he
of course he is.
Always right here. You know what? There are lots of life lessons from Finn. One is that you greet everybody with an open heart unless they prove otherwise. You give everybody an equal opportunity unless they show you otherwise. You present a loving presence to the world, and you put out love to the world, and you're going to get that back 99.9% of the time. I think those are pretty powerful lessons. Every stranger is a friend. You just haven't met them yet.
Yeah, because you don't know a chance. Be open to that. You never know. That's awesome.
Be open to new experiences.
Okay.
Try something new, whether it's a swim in the ocean or, try something new enthusiastically. You never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
And be gentle and quiet. Be gentle and quiet, but yet powerful. When he wants to lie against you or stand into you or see a deer and pull you down the hill, very powerful. But he's also extremely kind. I mean, just always forgiving, always kind, always gentle, and loves everyone.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I shared this with you last week. I have a picture in my head when I think about Finn as a baby puppy. We had a couple of breeders come over, and we were all talking, and they were seeing the puppies, and I have a photo of Finn, and he's laying on his back, like flop, basically then sleeping, wide open, just as relaxed as you could be, and she's just petting him. People think, oh, every dog does that, and it's like, well, if there's a couple other puppies in there that really wouldn't do that. That's my picture of Finn, just laid back, sweet, loving, and open to the world. I can be relaxed in the world.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that, because that is a typical position for him to be in the hallway of Bryn Mawr Hospital. If any nurse or anybody stopped and spent more than 1 minute with him, he was on his back getting a belly rub. And people were walking around us. Traffic would stop.
It's funny because he's such a blend of Tracker and Sky. He didn't get the super energy from Tracker, which is a good thing. But that laying on the back with people, Tracker would do that at dog shows, the shows at Oaks, like where it's a bench show, so we have to stay and everybody's coming. He's like, I don't want to nap. He would stay up the whole day, and he'd be like dropping over exhausted, but he would go and literally lay out in the aisle, which was acceptable. That's fine.
Yeah.
In the way of everybody. And then if they'd come, he'd roll over and he's like, yeah, you can pet my belly. He's like, whatever. He loved that. So I can imagine Finn doing it with the Tracker influence there. he has the really sweet Sky influence. And while Tracker and Sky were both very, very smart dogs, Sky was amazing. You could give her 2 sentence instructions and she knew what you were talking about. Go downstairs and get the red ball. Yeah, and she would go do it. I mean, she just was amazing. And I think that Finn got that from her. Tracker was impish, so there would have been a little different view of using his intellect. But Sky was dutiful and wanted to please, loved to learn like crazy. If another dog was doing something that Jenny was working with that dog and they didn't get it right away, Sky would be like, I can do it. You know, like a kid in school, right? I have the answer. Pick me, teacher. And you're like, no, I'm really working with this one. And it's like, no, I can do it. Hearing what you're talking about with Finn and that love of learning very much from Sky. And she had the very calm demeanor that I think he got in his deck of cards from them.
You say that because I swear when I talk to him outside, he knows what I'm saying. I talk to him as if I probably talk to him more than I talk to most people. And he seems to know what I want him to do, and where I want him to do it, and how I want him to do it. And he obliges me. Like he'll turn around and he's like, are you kidding me? You really want me to do this? And I'll say, go on, you know what I want you to do. And even if it's just like walking across the street or walking out into the lawn or staying put, just this morning when I was brushing him, I had taken his leash off and taken his collar off, and I was really brushing him off. And I said, no, do not move, and I want you to stand exactly the way you are. And he looked at me, and I swear he stood there for like 7 minutes while I went through his whole body, blinked for 1 second. I said, now stand there. I went over about 10 feet away, got a bag, put his hair in the bag, his leash back on. The dog never moved. He just stayed there. And then I said, well, now we may go. And he was ready and was it.
He's a good boy.
But he knows.
I believe it. There have been articles written in intellectual tests and things like that that do prove that. But the anecdotal evidence is overwhelming. Dogs really do understand, whether it's words that they learn, gestures, intonations. It doesn't matter to me. They do understand. What was the biggest challenge with him? What do you think?
Challenge.
Food.
Yes. Yes. Having a high chair with babies dropping food on the floor and trying to keep him from eating it and not learning that the kitchen is where you want to hang out because you know it's going to be a constant source of food. Being around another young child who left something on a coffee table that he grabbed, and then we took it out of his mouth, but he learned. He learned what people food was. And I think, that was something I did not want to happen. And maybe we could have been tighter with him on it. And it hasn't been a huge problem, but I thought that that's something I would have done differently. I would have spent a little bit more time thinking, and the kids would hang over the side of the high chair trying to feed him. It only takes one time, and that I find that
that's it.
I mean, to this day, it's not that we give him people food, but till this day, he is always under our feet in the kitchen, always hoping and praying for something to fall. And when it does, it's like an alligator jumping on it.
Nobody else is going to get it. It's mine.
But I don't think the challenge was Finn. I think that was the challenge was on us there. In terms of challenges for Finn, I just think the energy and any golden puppy would have, and to harness that and find a vehicle for it. I don't think that was a challenge, but that was just the reality. The fact that it was February and there was snow made it a little bit more challenging in terms of being outside and having exercise early on, but that was short-lived.
And the 7 to 9 o'clock zoomies in the evening. That was tough.
In the winter.
I love when somebody's like, oh, the puppy went to sleep. They went to bed at like 7 or 8 o'clock. It's like, nope. Well, why are you up at 10 o'clock? The dog is up and racing around, and there's no stopping that. That carries through like every puppy, every litter. We do publish a schedule that people have. We've really upgraded a lot of things that we do formally now that we did more informally at that time. And the schedule is held true. through the years, that puppies kind of all do the same thing, maybe adjusting for whether it's, 7 to 8 or 9 to 10, depending on how they have molded the puppy to their schedule. But yeah, nighttime zoomies.
But I will say Finn has never been an early riser, ever.
Interesting.
Sometimes he would be the last one up.
No, he loves to sleep.
He never has gotten up early. People say, "Oh, my dog got me up early." I'm like, we're saying, Finn, get up. And so
Interesting.
that's how laid back he is.
Yeah, we have a variety. We get up at 5, but there might be some that are barking right at that time and going, "Yep, hey, I'm up." It's not that they have to go out. It's just like we're up and ready to go. And others, I'm sure that if we didn't have that schedule, would be happy to sleep another hour or so. So, that's some individual difference right there.
He gets up with us. I mean, if we're up, he gets up. And that can fluctuate within a half hour, 45 minutes sometimes. So he
Sure
goes with our schedule. Totally.
makes a lot of sense. Anything else that you think would be really good to share, or that you would like to share about Finn's life story with you?
I would say to people, keep an open mind. You're presented with an open book, and be open to the possibilities, and spend the time to get to know your puppy and explore any possibility, because I would never say he can't do that or we can't do that. Try it and see. That was our motto. Let's try it and see what happens. And he'll let us know.
That's good. It's aligned with the kinds of things that we talk about with the families, and to also get them to see that when we talk about 2 years of training. So puppy kindergarten, I mean, we've really accelerated that too, but it isn't a straight line, do this and then this and then this and then this over and over again. It can be that exploration, because it's about working with the dog through those developmental stages and until they really get mature enough for their heads to be completely back on from the teenager stage. Rich, anything from your perspective? Any other highlights of Finn?
A little funny thing there. Have some tennis balls always available. I don't know about the other puppies, but Finn was always a big fan of tennis balls. We had 5 grandsons that came through, and he would wrestle with them, and they would jump on him and play baseball and wiffle ball and balls of any kind. He would steal them. Now he doesn't do so much anymore because the boys are older, and of course he's a lot older. But he was always a great big fan of ball playing, especially with the tennis ball.
And the boys didn't have a dog at home. And this was their first introduction to a big dog. I think Finn's legacy will be how they feel about dogs, large ones in particular. He would be sleeping with plastic dinosaurs all over his back and not even move. And to have them, and we have pictures of the grandkids hugging him. One of our grandsons got in the crate with them as a puppy, and they're both sitting in the crate. And I think that's a great gift to give these little boys that haven't not had the opportunity to have a dog in their home when they were very young.
And two of them already have said to me that when they become adults, all they want are Goldens. It's the only dog to have. And so I think that's a result of
legacy,
being with him, just playing with him and hugging him and kissing him and lying with him. He was always very tolerant. He never showed any form of aggressive behavior. Never.
Our Amazon driver thinks he's hysterical. He lays in front of the front door in the Amazon. He doesn't pick his head up or bark. And I mean, he never has. And most people think he's hysterical. They see this big dog and it's like, he's so friendly,
I want to throw one other thing there. There was a UPS guy that came last week, and I had Finn in the garage with me, and he wasn't on a leash or anything. So the UPS guy comes up our driveway and he says, "I've never seen your dog before, but I always see him sleeping." And he said, "Is he tied up?" And I said, "No, but he won't move. He's just lying there." And he came over to Finn and he starts petting Finn. Finn just picked his head up. And it was like, and the guy said, "I am the UPS man." And Finn was like, "Okay." And he went back to sleep. That was it. That was the extent that he acknowledged him.
I have one funny story, Nancy. When Finn was around these little toddlers, and they would have binkies in their mouth. Occasionally,
Oh.
he was really, he pulled the binky out of their mouth.
Very
So-
gentle.
Very gently. I was in the hospital early on with him, and we were in the peds unit, and this little toddler had a mask on. He went up to the toddler and pulled his mask off. And I thought, I looked around, I thought we were going to be asked to leave. I said, this is it. I thought, I didn't even anticipate that he would do that.
Sure.
He was probably younger than he should have been. And everything was fine. The mother was good and everything, but it almost had heart. It was scary. Now looking back, it was kind of funny because he has a very soft mouth.
Yes.
You know, that was our only incident at the hospital.
No, I had an incident. I just have to share this one. There's this
Sure.
lady, I went up to the 6th ward. And this woman was lying in bed. And she had a cover on her legs. And she said, I'd really like your dog to get in bed with me. And I said, he's like 75 or 78 pounds. She said, that's no problem. Just have him hop up. So he hops up, and I see her sort of groaning. And so she said, but leave him here. So I finally get him off. And I said, well, it was a little uncomfortable. And I said, what was wrong? She had 2 broken legs. He was lying on the pad. Yeah.
Jeez.
It was like, oh man, she never told me. She said it didn't hurt that much. But when he jumped up, he made sure he didn't jump on the cast, but he was lying on her legs.
Yeah.
And it was like 5-10 minutes that he just stayed there, and she was petting him.
Oh.
He was allowed to get in bed if the patient invited him.
Yeah.
And some patients did want him in bed with them.
And of course, he could never touch food on a tray or anything.
There's rules for all of them. And I always think about, if that was me, I would want a dog jumping up. I was the one in the hospital. Like, bring him up, let him pet. There's so many dog lovers out there, whether they're golden retriever, aficionados or not. It's a dog, and that therapeutic aspect that they provide. Anybody who's a dog owner is likely going to say, hop up here. I want to pet him. I want to have that connection.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It was cool.
Okay. So super sharing. I appreciate it. Great stories. It just sounds so much like Finn. It's really cool to think about, in the short time that we have those puppies, how they blossom and grow, and the kinds of experiences that you've had. And it's a domino effect. You're demonstrating to other people, this is the way that you raise a golden, because they can behave that way. But if you didn't take him to the classes and work with him, he wouldn't be as properly mannered. I think that's important. And then the next generations coming through, getting those experiences with dogs, whether they want Goldens or not, that's fine. But getting an experience with a dog so that they don't have fears. Because we have had some people come here who did have children that had some fear of dogs, and they overcame that. And we've actually had some adults who had fears of dogs and overcame it as well. But I think that is, Barb, as you're talking about your grandkids, really, really important as well. In addition to all of the joy that Finn's brought you, and then other people. And then that accelerates your experience, right? Because it's like, this feels good, and then that feels good, and then it's back on you, and just really nice. Ultimately, he's getting fulfilled.
It was a very nice experience.
Yeah, it's been on so many levels for us. It's been wonderful. I appreciate.
Well, we're going to work on getting together more frequently. Like I said, we're not going to let it go for these guys, because we want to honor their age, and hopefully we'll be able to get the same group. But we're going to do some more of this, as we want to keep in touch. So give him a big hug. I'll give you guys a big hug. Thank you very much. Take care. Thanks.
Bye.